Mobile first still feels like the least painful way to do responsive design. Start with the smallest screen, make the core flow solid, then layer on complexity. If the page works on a phone in a noisy adoption event like this, it'll probably survive anywhere.
So you'd rather constrain first and expand later?
Exactly. It forces you to prioritize content and interactions. On mobile, there's no room for decorative nonsense. You find out fast what actually matters. I've seen teams design desktop first and then spend weeks hiding a mess under media queries.
That sounds familiar. Buttons become fossilized somewhere under 3 breakpoints.
Right. Mobile first also plays nicer with performance. Smaller assets, fewer layout surprises, cleaner CSS. Then at larger breakpoints you add grid columns, richer spacing, maybe a sidebar if it earns its keep.
And if it doesn't?
Then it doesn't get a sidebar. I'm not in the business of feeding layout clutter.
Conveniently strict.
Call it disciplined. The trick is using min-width breakpoints instead of fighting the cascade. Build up from a simple column layout, then enhance.
So the base experience is the contract, and the bigger screens are the bonus round.
Pretty much. And if the base is weak, no amount of bonuses will save it. Like that puppy earlier. Cute. But if it can't sit still, the rest is just chaos.
You're comparing CSS to puppies now.
Only because both expose flaws very quickly. Once the mobile-first base is set, fluid grids are what keep it from feeling brittle. Fixed widths are a trap. They look tidy until one weird screen size comes along, and the whole thing shoves itself sideways.
So percentages over pixels?
Mostly, yes. Or use CSS Grid and Flexbox with values that breathe instead of locking everything down. The layout should adapt to available space, not demand the space obey it.
That sounds a little like the people here trying to fit 10 dog crates into one corner.
Exactly. The corner doesn't negotiate. Fluid layouts do. You define ranges, proportions, and constraints, then let the browser do the stretching.
And spacing?
Same idea. Use relative units where it makes sense. Rems for topography, percentages or 4 units for columns, max widths to keep lines readable. Flexible doesn't mean sloppy.
You'd still cap things where needed.
Absolutely. Fluid grids aren't a free-for-all. They're a controlled glide. If everything expands forever, you end up with a design that looks like it's been left in the sun.
So the goal is to let it flow without letting it drift.
Now you're getting it. The best flexible layouts feel calm, even when the viewport is doing gymnastics. And once the layout is fluid, images have to play along or they wreck the whole thing. A perfectly responsive grid means nothing if one giant photo forces horizontal scrolling.
So the media needs to be as flexible as the container?
Exactly. Use max width, 100% for basic cases, but for real work, think in terms of SRC set sizes and different crops. Mobile users shouldn't download a billboard just to see a dog's face.
That would be a pretty expensive face.
Very. And video is similar. You want aspect ratio handling, lazy loading when appropriate, and controls that don't disappear into tiny tap targets.
What about art direction? Same image everywhere?
Not always. Sometimes the mobile crop needs to show the subject differently than desktop data. If the important part is a dog's eyes, don't let some wide landscape crop turn it into a mystery blob.
Fair. One. Otherwise the whole message gets lost.
Right. Responsive media isn't just shrinking things. It's choosing the right asset for the context, the bandwidth, and the layout. If you treat every screen the same, you're ignoring half the problem.
And probably annoying half the users.
More than half, if the file sizes are bad enough. Once the images are behaving, Media queries are the piece that lets the whole thing pivot cleanly. They're not there to rescue a bad layout. They're there to refine a good one.
So you don't just pick breakpoints by device names?
No, that's a fast way to chase trends that expire every year. I prefer breakpoints based on content. When the layout starts to feel cramped, that's a signal. When the line length gets awkward or a component breaks, that's a breakpoint.
Content-driven instead of phone-driven.
Exactly. Common widths help as starting points, but they shouldn't be sacred. Use media queries to adjust typography, spacing, navigation, and columns where the design actually needs it.
So one breakpoint might just change padding, not the whole structure.
Right. I'm born minority. Small, deliberate shifts. If every query is a complete redesign, the CSS turns into a campfire story nobody wants to inherit.
That's usually how I know a codebase is in trouble.
Same. I also like keeping the base styles as the default, and only overriding when the viewport demands it. Less noise, fewer surprises.
And fewer, why does this only break on one tablet? Messages.
Exactly. The best breakpoints feel invisible, like the interface just knew what to do. And for the browser to actually know what to do on mobile, the viewport setup has to be right. Without it, you can build a beautiful responsive layout and still watch the page pretend it's on a desktop.
You mean the meta viewport tag?
Exactly. Width or device width, initial scale hon.i. It tells the browser to match the viewport to the device instead of shrinking the page into some tiny, unreadable simulation.
So if someone forgets that, everything else is basically fighting the wrong battle.
Pretty much. Text becomes microscopic, breakpoints trigger strangely, and the whole design can look like it was mailed in from another century.
Harsh but fair.
Scaling matters too. You want users to zoom when they need to, and you don't want your layout to sabotage that. Fixed scale tricks usually cause more problems than they solve.
I've seen sites that somehow break the moment you pinch zoom.
That's a sign someone confused control with usability. The viewport should support responsiveness, not bully it. Once that foundation is right, the media queries and fluid layouts actually mean something.
So the browser needs a clear starting point before the rest of the system can adapt.
Exactly. And if that starting point is off, every layer above it gets a little more fragile.